Over the past few days, there have been two things that have went from 100 to 0 almost instantly. That is Drake. The second he released a diss track and then Kendrick bounces back with a new response and then no one cares about Drake's response anymore and is actually being disliked a lot on YouTube. That's one of them. But the second one, and the one that I'm actually talking about today, which you already read the title in the video, is the Helldivers 2 situation. I couldn't help myself but talk about this because this is actually insane. I was laying in bed, I couldn't sleep, and I was like, you know what, let's just talk about this instead. Because this is one of the few situations where you see something that is so popular that I'm talking about literally everybody and their grandma likes this game and has enjoyed it. And now it's just it's like Thanos is snapping this shit out of fucking existence. So for those that are unaware what the game is, it's pretty much like an extraction based type of game. You sit there, you have an area you go land into, and then either you fight enemies or you're going to upload data, you do this, you do that. It's pretty much, you have like an objective you do, you fight a bunch of enemies. In the meantime, you hang out with your friends, you have a good time, and then you go back to the ship and do the same shit over, and that's pretty much it. It's a pretty fun loop, and of course, that's part of the main traction why it got so popular, was because of that. All in all, it was a great game for a great price, and so a lot of people latched onto it and had a great time. Until the new news just broke recently. When I say recently, I mean like a day or two ago, where they sit there and let me just read it to you. So on May 3rd, they made a tweet on their account that said, "Helldivers, an important message from our partner PlayStation about account linking for PC players and its significance in providing player safety features." And then they say read the full message, which we'll read in a second. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, dog. I've been PlayStation pretty much my entire life, and I can tell you, just like everyone else has said, that's a load of dog shit. There ain't no safety that you're going to get from a company that's had so many multiple breaches throughout the past decade. Hey, maybe I'm showing my age here, but I remember a point where fucking the entire network was down for months upon months because of one of the biggest hacks ever. I'll put a screenshot on screen while I'm talking about this, but there was a point in time that many might not remember, but Sony had a hack that was so huge that they took online down for months. You couldn't even access it no more. I remember because it was at a point where I wanted to play games online with my friends and I couldn't. Dog, imagine being a kid wanting to play games with your friends and you can't because the whole thing is just fucking down and you don't even know when it's coming back. It was awful. So yeah, of course I'm going to be jaded by PlayStation just as much as the next person, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, realistically, I'm getting kind of ahead of myself. Let me pull things back a little bit. So here's the post right here. It said, "Helldivers 2 account linking update. Attention Helldivers. Due to technical issues at the launch of Helldivers 2, we allowed the linking requirements for Steam accounts to the PlayStation Network account to be temporarily optional. That grace period will now expire. See details below in this post." It says account linking plays a critical role in protecting our players and upholding the values of safety and security provided on PlayStation and PlayStation Studio games. This is the main way to protect players from grief and abuse by enabling the banning of players that engage in this type of behavior. It also allows those players that have been banned the right to appeal. Now, this is kind of a load of dog shit right here, but I'll get to that in a moment. As such, as of May 6th, all new Helldivers 2 players on Steam will be required to connect their Steam account to the PlayStation Network account. Current players on Steam will start to see the mandatory login from May 30th and will be required to have a linked Steam and PlayStation Network account by June 4th. PlayStation Network accounts are free and easy to set up using this link. Oh yeah, we'll get to that in a second too. We understand that while this may be an inconvenience to some of you mean to everyone. All right, to everyone. Just be real here, dog. It's to everyone. This step will help us continue to build a community that you are all proud to be a part of. Many thanks for your continued support of Helldivers 2, Sony Interactive Entertainment. And so, of course, this comes from Sony, and it's not good, dog. There's a lot of reasons why, of course, you see no one thumbs this shit up. It's very obvious why. But yes, so there's so many different things to here that I need to unpack. But the first one being, of course, for those that don't know, what they're talking about is this screen right here. When you originally started the game, when it first came out, this was a screen that you got. It said, hey, scan the QR code or press the button below to begin linking your account to Steam and PlayStation Network. And then, as they were saying, you had a temporary moment to skip the option. But the problem that they had with it was, of course, first of all, it's their wording. Also, I just want to add in for any of the astute observers who's looking at the screenshot that's going to be like, well, it says at the bottom it's required. Dog, clearly it's not. If they allowed you to skip it, dog, I sit there and play the game with no issue. I've been able to sit there and play with anybody on any platform. So clearly it wasn't required. How do you expect people to believe that it's actually a requirement that on the screen when they were able to bypass it? It's clearly not a requirement then. That is part of the problem, was their communication and how they worded this. That screen should have sat there and said, this is a temporary bypass that we will allow you to skip account registration to get into the game, but eventually you will be required. They should have made that big giant guy, huge words that says you will be required to make an account if you want to continue playing this game in a couple months or whatever the case might be. That's what they should have done. But sitting there saying, oh yeah, it's a requirement at the bottom of the screen, and then you have a fucking skip button right there that still lets you play the game anyway. Of course, it's going to leave people confused, and so they say, oh, well, I guess it's not a requirement. If you're going to sit there and have the option go away, what do you expect people to sit there and believe later on when you make it mandatory months down the line after your game is popped off? You've had everybody and their grandma playing it with no issue whatsoever. How are you going to just sit there and say, yeah, this is mandatory, dog? We made it temporarily not an option, going at the beginning just so we can make things easier for us. You might as well just had to say required from the second the game launched, because of course there's going to be a lot of people that are going to sit there and say, and I've seen it already, people be like, well, it's already on the page. It sit there and says it, which it does. It'll sit there and say requires third-party account PlayStation Network. Now here's the thing with that. Also, fuck this shit. I hate anything that's super invasive on a computer, but we're not talking about that today. When it says right here that's required, you can sit there and say cool, but here's the other thing. First of all, people don't read that shit. Let's be real here, dog. Ain't nobody reading the store page. People just want to play the game that they like. So they sit there and say, hey, everyone's playing this game. Looks fun. Cool. If they get hit with the screen when they start it up, then they'll worry about it at that time. If it lets them skip it, they're like, cool, no problem. But to some people, it might be a big enough deal breaker, which is seeming like it's a pretty big deal breaker for a lot of people, to sit there and have it mandatory. So in the sense of, let me break it down, you sit there and buy the game, you get hit with a mandatory link your account screen, then guess what? Some people are probably going to be like, fuck this shit, and refund the game. But if you have an option to skip it, then that's cool. Realistically, this whole situation has been handled so poorly, and it's so irritating, especially from Sony's end, because as everyone else has already stated, this isn't really on the developer's side. This is something that is being forced from the top, and they have no choice but to comply. That is just that's what happens when you work with PlayStation. You have to do what they say. And that is really the unfortunate reality with this. And what's honestly even more mind-boggling, because Sony's always wanted to have a game that is super fucking successful, because they have never had a single live service game that actually pops off. And the ones that they did buy, Destiny, isn't really doing too hot. So it's so mind-blowing that they're willing to go and fight on this fucking hill over this and account linking when it's already been shown for 3+ months that it's not even needed, dog. Now, of course, you might be wondering, why are people mad about this? What's so hard about account linking? Well, one of the first ones being, if you happen to live in the EU, UK, you gotta sit there and do age verification, dog. This is fucking insane. If I didn't have a PlayStation account and I lived in the EU and I had to do shit like this, bro, no shot. I would sit there and just refund the game at that point. I'm not going to go through the trouble of giving a company that has had multiple security breaches, which again, you can look up if you really are curious, but I'm not going to sit there and go through the trouble and give my personal information and do this. Now, to be clear, when I looked this up and I was trying to research information on this isn't something that is yet mandated, but will eventually probably will be. And that this is something that Sony went ahead and started doing themselves to, I guess, get a foothold, get ahead of the game for something that's eventually probably going to be mandated in the UK, EU, etc. So to sit there and have to do this shit is absolutely crazy. I'm not giving no fucking game company my ID just so I can play a video game. What in tarnation? That is ridiculous. Why? No. Like, that is one of the reasons why people are upset about it. But then another reason why is this right here. So you're going to sit there and look at this. It says these are purchase restricted countries. So Sony has added a lot of countries that have now been restricted from buying the game. Now you might be wondering what this is for. The reason is because PlayStation Network doesn't support all these countries. So guess what? People who bought this game bought a game that is now going to be forced to link an account that they can't even make because Sony doesn't even support their country. That is insane. Imagine buying a game under the pretense that you can play it and then have that access removed because Sony's like, hey, account linking is now mandatory, and we might not support your country, but we'll figure it out. But thanks for buying our game, dog. That's fucking shitty. That's unexcusable. That is fucking scummy as fuck. And again, I want to be clear. This isn't on Arrowhead. This isn't on the studio that made the game. This isn't their fault. I mean, granted, there are better ways that they could have gone about handling this situation, but ultimately, this is a decision that Sony is pushing from the top down. They want this, and Arrow has no choice but to comply. To be honest, this is a situation that is very mind-boggling to a lot of people, as so many have already pointed out, myself included, which is, if you wanted people to sit there and make an account, why don't you just offer an incentive? This is actually the most baffling thing that I think companies don't really understand at all. Why don't you just dangle something free? It doesn't even have to be serious. It could be a cape, it could be an outfit, it could be a skin, whatever the case might be. Sit there and say, hey, you link your PlayStation account or you link your Steam account to PlayStation, guess what, dog? You get a free new skin, or you get one of the battle passes or something. Like, that would be incentivizing, and people would be like, hey, I'll do it. I like free shit. Why not? Because to a lot of people, hey, when it comes to free, they'll do anything for it. Myself included. You sit there and you dangle something in front of me, it might not even be that serious. I'll still do whatever you want me to do for the most part, as long as it's not like super fucking crazy. Make an account, I'll probably be like, fuck. If I was in the UK, I'll probably be like, fuck. Maybe I don't really want to make this account, but hey, I depending on how much I like the game and then what they're offering me, I might still do it anyway. I'll be like, fuck it. All right, you sold me, guys. All right, you got me. But this is where it's insane. You don't incentivize. You don't provide actual real reasons why this has to be mandatory. How did your game go for 3+ months without this mandatory? It's been working fine. There's been no issues. But now it's going to be, now we got to save the safety of all the players. Dog, PlayStation has Steam. Steam has been running fine for years upon years, decades. And there have been no issues at all when it comes to handling cheaters, bans, all of that shit. So to sit there and say that this is something that's for the safety and all this other extra shit, you got to sit there and back it up with some actual real information that shows why your solution is better than something like Steam, where it already has solutions for you. To really understand how big of a situation this is, it says Helldivers 2 has now received 84,000 negative reviews in the past day, and this was literally posted yesterday. So yeah, you can tell that people are not happy about this. And then when you go to the actual store page, you can sit there and see right here, it's not good, dog. And then if you want, you can sit there and read through some of these. Some of these actually have a lot of information that might prove useful or interesting to you. But there is a legitimate reason for people to be upset by this, because I've seen a lot of brain dead takes and they're like, oh, why are you mad, bro? You're just linking an account. You got to remember, it's not the same experience for everybody. Let alone, not everybody wants to make an account just to play one game, let alone the fact that they've been playing it for multiple months to now be required and have it be a mandatory thing that they have to now make an account. That is not going to sit well with a lot of people. That is pretty scummy in its own right. If I've been playing a game for 3+ months and I've been having a good time and I've never had to link my account, nor do I have an account made, and then one day I'm hit with a splash screen saying, hey, you need to make a new account to play this game, I'm going to be kind of like, why? Why are you doing this to me, dog? I bought the game. I didn't have the screen. If you would have gave it to me, I probably wouldn't have bought it or some shit. That's going to be a mentality for a lot of people. And it's a rightly justified opinion. A lot of people don't like making accounts for every goddamn thing when it comes to PC gaming. It is really irritating. You need to play a game on Ubisoft account. You want to play an EA game? You need to make an EA account. You need to sit there for Blizzard games. Same shit. And of course, a lot of people say, oh, well, what about Microsoft games? You gotta sit there and sign in with it. Yeah, but that's already known right off the bat. The problem with this game is the fact that it didn't have it mandatory at the beginning. No matter how many people want to say that was on a store page, which you're rightfully right in that, it didn't mandate it. So to everyone, that tag on there was a load of dog shit. It was a load of bullshit. They didn't make it clear that they were going to make it mandatory. They didn't drive it in because guess what? They were focused on the server issues. They were trying to get people just to even get in the fucking game. That's all they cared about. So this is still on them no matter what. It would be a different story if they never temporarily disabled the requirement to have an account. If they never did that, then people wouldn't be having all this shitstorm. Never happened. But because it's been so late into the game and it's been months upon months, and of course the situation with other countries not being able to make an account, and now with the whole situation with Sony now just saying fuck it, this game is now going to be delisted from all these places. Yeah, it's a pretty shitty situation all around. Now I know in some videos a lot of people have been pointing to Steam charts, trying to sit there and say, oh well, it's like the player base ain't listening or they don't care. 67,000 was playing over an hour ago on Steam. And here's my thing with that. I don't think that these numbers mean shit right now. It won't mean anything until June hits, when it actually becomes a mandatory thing. People are not going to speak with their wallets. If they enjoy the game, they're going to sit there and keep playing it until they are forced to make an account, and then they'll make the actual decision on whether or not they're going to try and get a refund, which Steam, from what I've been reading, is now allowing. So if you want to try and get your refund, I guess, go right ahead. I don't know if Steam will give it to you. They might not, but this is a situation where until actually the mandatory account linking that they said May 30th, and then it has to be by June 4th at the latest. Once that date comes, then these numbers will have more merit, I would say, a week after, to really see what's going to be the actual effect. Now, at the time of me making this video, the CEO did make a statement, and I mean, it is what it is. They said, on a serious note, we're talking solutions with PlayStation, especially for non-PSN countries. Your voice has been heard, and I'm doing everything I can to speak for the community, but I don't have the final say, and that's really what it boils down to. He doesn't have the final say. Again, this is a PlayStation decision, a Sony decision, and what they say goes. Now, I do want to bring up one more tweet that the CEO made, replying to something that someone asked, which I think is a fair question. It says, why are you acting all blameless? Like, you should have known for probably years that PSN would be a requirement, and I bet it was your call that it would not be enforced in the beginning to help with the server load, which is a pretty fair point. And they said, I do have a part to play. I'm not blameless in all of this. It was my decision to disable account linking at launch so that players could play the game. I did not ensure players were aware of the requirement, and we didn't talk about it enough. We knew for about 6 months before launch that it would be mandatory for online PS titles. And honestly, sitting there saying that looks even worse, because now people are going to be like, if you know it for this long, then why didn't you drive this home even harder? But hopefully, I mean, this is honestly just being transparent. Again, I would sit there and say, yes, it's a shitty situation. Yes, they could have worded things better. Yes, they could have enforced it better. But it's not like it was their decision to sit there and want to put this in the game. It was a mandatory requirement. The only thing on their part that was fucked up was how they sit there and enforced it, and again, handled the situation, which was disabling it temporarily, as the CEO said, so that more people can go online and actually play the game. And that's pretty much where the crux of this is. It's how the whole situation played out, and now it's pretty shitty all around, and everyone's pretty upset. But yeah, I just want to talk about this real quick because this is a very interesting situation. I'm someone that has, again, as I said earlier in the video, I like Sony for a very long time. I have a PlayStation 5 back there, but it's not because I want to play my games on PlayStation. It's far from it. I play it only because I have no choice whenever it comes to exclusives. And it fucking sucks. I would much rather play it on PC. I don't want to play anything on Sony. There's no shot, bro. Sony is very anti-consumer for the most part, and they don't really give a shit about the consumers, as you can see right now throughout this whole situation with Helldivers 2. It's very fucking wild. Anyways, I've talked about this long enough. You made this far into the video. Consider giving a like, subscribing to the channel. Leave me a comment below what you think. Have a great day. Yeah.